This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I'm the host on our podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. Listen, we're going to continue on this amazing journey that we have been on together, where we are supporting our nation as represented by our flag, our presidential seal. We're praying for our president. We're going to continue to pray for the 265,900,000 working Americans who are coming out of the hole, who were living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet last year. We're going in a totally different direction. We had our election. We're in a powerful flow. Things are improving. There's resistance, but boy, is there good change or what? We've got a new leader. We've got Capitol Hill. We got our elections coming up in 2026. And tonight we're going to examine something that's generating a lot of discussion in our nation: turning the tables. And from a clinical perspective, we're going to talk about a winning mindset. Let's explore this together. We're going to dive in, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters. Remember, we're going somewhere, and it's expecting us when we get there. Come and go with me. What does it mean when we say to turn the tables? It means to change from being in a weaker position in relation to someone else to being in a stronger position. Democrats created what has been called a court monster. Now it's eating them up in some ways. The tables have been turned. Liberals used the court to bypass democracy for decades. Now President Trump is flipping that script and reshaping the judiciary in the process. The Supreme Court's ruling green lighting mass layoffs at the Department of Education, he can hire who he wants to, sends a clear message: the courts no longer belong to the Democrats. For decades, Democrats relied on judges to impose policies they couldn't pass through to Congress. So they were legislating from the bench. That's what they've been doing. That's what happened with Roe v. Wade. Think about that. Now, let me stay focused here. The role of the courts is to interpret the law. The role of the legislative branch is to make the laws. The role of the executive branch is to enforce the laws. And that's what President Trump has been doing, enforcing laws that hadn't even been acknowledged before. But that strategy of the liberal courts has collapsed that they had before. With a conservative majority now on the bench, the judicial workaround has given way to, imagine this, constitutional limits, and the left is losing. A clear example of this is that based on the Constitution, the High Court ruled in favor of the parents in Montgomery County, Maryland, having their First Amendment rights to religious freedom to be upheld regarding what their kindergarten children could be forced to be exposed to in the public schools. This spoke to the core of the LGBTQ agenda, and they were trying to say, we're just trying to promote kindness. That's all. Just kindness. Listen, they were teaching these little kindergartners what to do with their hands, and by the time they got to middle school, they were telling them what to do with their fists related to somebody's body. I'll just leave it at that. So, my thing is, grown people can do whatever they want to do. Leave these children alone. Indoctrinating kindergartners regarding all things sexual. It was a violation of the parents' constitutional rights to force their children to be taught and celebrate things against their religious beliefs. It's like, to say, oh, well, people get married, okay, but it's not. They were being forced to celebrate it. They had the right to opt their children out. And that's what that quote, they said, okay, y'all gonna teach it, I can opt my children out. And they're like, but it's gonna cause such a hardship in the school system. Well, you know what? Work it out. Because they had worked it out before. They had been opting out, and somebody, who is that somebody, came in and said, it was under the previous administration, said they can't opt out. Parents' fault, and they won. Every time Democrats sue to block Trump's orders, they hand him another opportunity, and this court is more than ready to lock in conservative victories for a generation. Now, in the final week of its 2025 term, the High Court curbed federal courts' ability to issue sweeping nationwide injunctions. It affirmed the right of parents to also, these are the victories. These are, you can't, they're saying these federal courts, we're stopping this ability to issue sweeping nationwide injunctions, and that's what we do as a nation. They were legislating from the bench. They also affirmed the right of parents to opt their children out of school lessons that violate their religious beliefs. They allowed South Carolina to deny Planned Parenthood Medicaid funding for non-abortion services. Listen, the dismembering, burning, and liquefying of our tiny citizens. So somebody said, what do you mean tiny citizens? It was just a fetus. It had a viable heartbeat. It runs from pain. If it was just a glob of cells, man, it's just a glob of cells. If that's the case, why was Scott Peterson charged with double murder, when he took the life of his pregnant wife, Lacey? It approved mass layoffs across the government, at least temporarily. In other words, the administration can lay off. They've done it before. Every administration has done this. Why is Donald Trump so different? In high-stakes emergency cases, Trump keeps winning. Oh, yeah. Notching victories in nearly all 18 Supreme Court petitions. That includes green lights to deport immigrants to third countries and enforce the transgender military ban. Listen, guys, women don't want biological men in the showers with them, among other things. And I was listening to an interview by Bevelyn Beatty Williams. Guys, go see the movie, Pardon Me. Live stream, Pardon Me. Awesome. Blessed me to see that movie. She and her husband, Ricky, are such a blessing. And Ellie, their little girl, was in the movie portraying herself. Bevelyn, I saw an interview that she did, and she said that in prison, when she was in prison those 3.5 months, 3 months or so that she was in there before President Trump pardoned her, she said biological men were in the prisons with women, and women got pregnant by them. Guys, that's asinine. Thank God she got pardoned. And I thank God that she got out, and I thank God for that movie, Pardon Me, and I've seen it 3 times. I like it. It just motivates me clinically in so many ways. Democrats thought that they could run out the clock with courtroom delay tactics. Instead, they handed President Trump a fast pass to the one branch that he dominates. Only one branch of government speaks with a single constitutionally defined voice. Listen, the executive. And right now that voice belongs to the president. No matter how loudly the deep state screams, he is the executive branch. Unlike the executive, Congress isn't built. The other branch of government that we deal with, that's how it's set up in America, is the legislative branch. But Congress isn't built for speed. They delay things. It's fractured. It's slow moving by design. Hundreds of voices split by region, party, and ego. The judiciary can splinter too, with power scattered across lower courts nationwide. But the Supreme Court, that's a different story. With a 6-3 conservative majority, President Trump holds a 2-1 advantage. Imagine if Republicans had that kind of dominance in Congress. President Trump wouldn't be scraping by with a razor-thin 220 to 212 majority in the House. His agenda would cruise through in the Senate. Forget the 60-vote filibuster firewall. Trump's bills would pass outright, hands down. We know that the Supreme Court can't launch policy offensives like Congress or the White House. It waits for cases to land. But thanks to Democrats, thank you, Democratic Party, those cases keep coming. Every time they sue to block President Trump's executive orders, they hand him another opportunity, and this court is more than ready to lock in conservative victories for a generation. In part, the court recently allowed President Trump to strip temporary protections from hundreds of thousands of immigrants, expedite deportation to countries where immigrants may not even have ties. The countries will take them in. Freeze $65 million in teacher grants. He's got to know where that money, we've got to know where the money's going, guys. Listen, they've been getting over on us like a fat rat promoting agendas. And it's got to line up. It's got to line up. They're not going to let these curriculums and things go through and flows take hold of like it had been before. If it lines up with promoting DEI and not hiring certain people. Oh, gosh. Listen, we already know what happened with the air traffic controllers. 1,000 of our white Americans didn't even get employed based on what they had been trained and educated in. Why? They were white. It's been asinine. Expand access to Social Security data for select federal personnel. He can do that. And he can also fire probationary federal employees. He can do that. It's a new day. One of Trump's most significant triumphs came when the justices limited lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions. These liberal judges, appointed by Obama and appointed by Biden, were legislating from the bench. But we got a significant victory. The justices limited lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions, thereby restricting the power of a single federal court to control policy nationwide. It's been a mess. Democrats have an Achilles heel. What's an Achilles heel? It refers to a person's specific weakness or vulnerability, even amidst overall strength, that can lead to their downfall. For decades, Democrats treated the courts as a shortcut to power. When they couldn't pass laws, they let judges do the work for them. That's what happened with Roe v. Wade. That was their crown jewel. A sweeping federal abortion mandate was put in place they never could have gotten through Congress. It should have been something we voted on. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg admitted the legal reasoning was flimsy. That should have been voted on. They used the same playbook to expand the welfare state and rewrite social policy from the bench. Judicial activism became the norm. And both sides played the game, but Democrats played it hard. And now the rules are turning against them. We're talking about turning the tables. Once these victories have been sealed. Every lawsuit that they file, it's affirming that they're filing, he's winning. It's affirming President Trump's agenda. Even when he technically loses, the rulings often leave behind a roadmap showing exactly how to win the next round. It does. He knows how to strategize. The man is a strategy. He knows the art of the deal, but he knows what he's trying to get accomplished for this country. He has really contributed to making us safe. Democrats' Supreme Court problem could get a lot worse. Justice Sotomayor, the court's oldest liberal at 71 years old, well, a reality is she has type 1 diabetes and a history of health problems. If she happened to step down during his term, he could lock in a 7-2 conservative majority. And if either Clarence Thomas, 77, or Samuel Alito, 75, decides to retire, Trump could replace them with younger conservatives, extending the court's rightward tilt for decades. This would secure a conservative legacy. Trump has every incentive to issue bold executive orders, and he is bold. The man's got backbone. Each lawsuit the left files creates another opening for the court to back him and turn temporary wins into permanent precedent. By chasing headlines and placating the base with short-term court fights, Democrats are handing Trump the long game. Their decades of judicial overreach have backfired, my fellow Americans and my brothers and sisters. The courts they once controlled now serve as Trump's most powerful weapon. The general public needs to know how many billions they wasted. People respond when they find out how their tax dollars have been wasted. That's what's been happening too. All this is coming out. They respond when they think the economy is good under one party and really bad on another. It influences votes. So they need it drilled in their minds how wasteful and how bad our economy was when the Democrats were in control. That's easy to prove. That's how you win those midterms or that next national election. The truth about money. Just like that article about, when that article came out about Buttigieg wasting $80 billion and not updating the air traffic controller equipment, that one of the guys in charge now with the Department of Transportation, one of him, he said what we're doing right now is equated to a flip phone. And part of the money in the big, beautiful bill is updating our airline, the whole system. We have to invest that kind of money. We're talking about basic safety. People get mad about the air traffic issues. Somehow they have to be made aware of what the Democrats did with that money. They need to be aware that 1,000 of our fellow Americans who were trained and educated and ready to be air traffic controllers, they were taken out of the pool because they were white. That's important. This brings us to our clinical perspective. Having a winning mindset, guys. We're winning. Oh, yeah, we're winning. I love it. Y'all know I love it. This is a mental framework focused on achieving goals and overcoming challenges characterized by positive thinking, resilience, and a belief in one's ability to succeed. And do you think President Trump doesn't have that mindset? If you don't know it by now, wake up. It involves, he's always had it. His business is run that way. People that work for him, they just talk about how he is just so giving and kind and he takes care of them. He has a winning mindset. It involves cultivating habits and beliefs that support continuous growth and progress. Now, let's look at some key characteristics shortly here for a winning mindset. What would happen if we had resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and learn from failed failures? What would happen if we had a positive attitude, focusing on the positive aspects of situations and maintaining an optimistic outlook? What would happen if we were goal-oriented, having clear goals and a plan to achieve them? What would happen? If we had adaptability, being open to change and adjusting strategies as needed? What would happen if we had self-belief, believing in ourselves, believing in our own capabilities and potential? Suppose we raise our children this way, guys. This is what so many are lacking. People have not spoken that into their core, into their soul, their mind, their will, their emotions, their intellect, their drive, and their desires. It will change you. What would happen if we had a growth mindset, viewing challenges as opportunities for learning and development? What would happen if we had focus and concentration, being able to maintain focus on the task at hand and avoid distractions? What would happen if we had strategic thinking, planning ahead and making informed decisions? What would happen if we, if together as Americans, as groups, as families, as schools, as churches, if we had continuous learning, seeking opportunities to expand knowledge and skills? That's so needed in the church. Expand recovery support and structure, and having structured systems and support groups in place to support people as they're going through specific kind of issues that heretofore I've seen some ministries just say, we don't want to touch it. But the people are there struggling with it. Oh, yeah, and it can change their lives. How do we develop that kind of mindset? Everything that I just specified, that's how I flow. That's how I think. I can't wait. I pray to God that I've told God I want to live to be an old spry woman, because I want to speak this into my grandchildren. I want to help them to develop a winning mindset. What would happen if we learned to set clear goals? I had the solution-focused problem-solving model on the wall in my son's room when he was 6, 7 years old. That's how he thought. That's how, well, I don't know, Mom. Go look at the wall. Tell me what step you're on right now. And he come back and say, I'm on step 3. What's the next step then? 4. Logic and deductive reasoning took him to 4. And we went back and rehearsed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once he met his goal, and he's soaring now as a man. He's soaring as an officer in the military. Praise God. I'm so proud to be a Blue Star mom. But I taught him how to set goals. And he was immediately recognized as having leadership potential. What would happen if we set clear goals, define what you want to achieve, and break them down into smaller, manageable steps? What would happen if we did that? We're talking about how to develop it. Excuse me. What would happen if we practice self-reflection, regularly assessing our progress, teaching our children to, and this is how we think in our household, to assess progress and identify areas for improvement? What would happen if we cultivate positive self-talk, where we replace these negative thoughts and make positive affirmations? What would happen if we visualize success, imagining ourselves achieving our goals, and boost motivation and confidence? What would happen if when we have challenges, it's a part of life, but we embrace it and we view setbacks as learning opportunities and develop resilience? My God, if we had our children and youth that were raised this way, and they can be. What would happen if we surround ourselves with positive influences, seeking support from people who believe in you and your goals? That's why when I went to Al-Anon, it changed my life. I'm telling you guys, this is a missed opportunity in churches. It'll be an outreach, a place where people can come. They can come and they can gather, and they know they're loved. I remember when Tiffany Crutcher, she was on the news, and she said, we don't have what South Tulsa has over in North Tulsa. And I was like, immediately I was like, well, what South Tulsa does and North Tulsa doesn't do is recovery support groups. The churches open up their doors and let people have Al-Anon meetings in there for the loved ones of those that are dealing with addiction issues, guys. The number one group dying from fentanyl overdose are Black Americans. There should be recovery support groups everywhere. All over the nation, in every community, every ethnic community, and we're interracial, we're mixed, but you need them everywhere. That's what they do. They create environments that other cultures, they don't do it. We just don't do it. And then we wonder what's wrong. These things I'm talking about teaching our children how to think like this. Instead of walking somewhere, talking about where them fans at, and talking about getting behind that girl, holding that thing, sipping on moonshine. Come on. What would happen if, I tell you, guys, I'm tired of this seeing us lose. But it's because we get set up with these ways of thinking that are self-defeating, guys. They're self-defeating. What would happen if we practice mindfulness where we pay attention to the present moment and manage stress effectively, guys? The way I see certain cultures managing stress is to jump on people and beat people in the head and inflicting traumatic brain injuries on each other. I see this stuff going on social media, and I was like, they'll never be the same. They'll be disabled, and that traumatic brain injury is going to affect their cognitive functioning, their behavioral functioning, their physical functioning, their or will be global. Their aphasia, expressive aphasia, receptive aphasia. They can't process information coming in. They can't even give it going out, guys. And we sit up there and beat each other up, and then you think Donald Trump is your problem. What would happen if we had never stopped? If we never stopped learning, setting it up that we're constantly in this cycle of learning, continuously seeking opportunities to expand your knowledge and your skills. I always, when I was a teacher and school psychologist and doing therapeutic groups with little kids and adults and middle schoolers and everything, I always frame everything with who, what, when, where, how, and why. Let's talk through that. Who, what, when, where, how, and why about what we're dealing with here. It takes things to another level. What would happen if we take consistent action? Don't just think about our goals, but take steps to achieve it. What have we looked at tonight? Turning the tables. Turning the tables. Turning around, turning these tables. And our clinical perspective is exploring the dynamics of a winning mindset. Here's the bottom line. Can the Republican Party and we the people lock down and maintaining this winning mindset that President Trump is locked down on us being in? There's a lot at stake, particularly as it relates to our posterity. And you know me, I'm all about the children, everything. Listen, about these agendas and all these agendas that people have, I love people. I don't care. Listen, I'm not going to bash or mistreat or disrespect anybody because of their sexuality or their choices. But I tell you, what I'm going to stand up for is our posterity. There is no way that you can convince me that it's okay for us to be teaching sexual activities to kindergartners and telling them what they can do to their hands to themselves, and telling them in the classroom, telling a kindergartner, there's no such thing as doing that too much in one day. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Listen, we're going somewhere, and it's expecting us when we get there, and I'm fighting for these children. I'm an advocate for them and their families because I know where it's going to take them, because I've been in these settings where they were so debilitated that they had to be hospitalized, and because they have been traumatized and triggered, they over there in a corner doing things and acting out things, even seeing the shape of certain things, and all of a sudden they triggered and doing things to objects, and I'm going, wait, hold on. But they get triggered, and going to school is the last place that they need to go and see images and see motions and see things that trigger them. They're getting triggered. They're getting traumatized all over again in the schools. Listen, we're going somewhere. It's expecting us when we get there. And I want you to continue to go with me, because we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're forming a more perfect union, which means us flowing together as one. The enemy doesn't like that, but he's a liar. He's a father of lies, and the truth has never been in him. If he speaks a lie, he doesn't speak the truth. And that's how I shut him down. And you need to learn how to exercise your authority in Christ, because when the enemy comes to take you out, you tell the devil to shut up. You're lying. You're the father of lies. The truth has never been in you. And greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world. Listen, I'll get fired up in a minute. And because I know the truth, and the truth has set me free. And I'll come over on here unashamed to speak it out, because we are worth it. Listen, guys, we are going to keep turning these tables, and we're going to keep this winning mindset. Guys, I love you. I bless you. I thank God for you. You've been prayed over. If you're looking at this, listening to this, you've been prayed over. And thank you for your patience with me in getting that exclusive content solidified through Patreon. It's coming together. I'm doing some things, and it's more and more getting solidified. I thank you for it. I appreciate you subscribing. I do. I appreciate you, and God bless you to those all around the world that are downloading the past podcast. Finland, Singapore, Egypt, Australia, Africa, the United States of America. I appreciate you guys. God bless you. I'll see you next week. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.